Okay, so related to the question of moral emotions and the relationship to emotions and moral philosophy, um, I think it's really useful to have a general understanding of moral emotions when we're thinking about this issue and really every issue in morality because um, one of the simplest ways to explain what morality is or moral behavior is um, by explaining the psychology of it. Now, the philosophical question of which actions are right and wrong are not explained by the separate question of what moral emotions are, where they come from, what kinds of moral emotions we have. But nevertheless, these other questions, these other psychological questions are really useful, so it's worth spending a little time just thinking about them. So, like all other emotions, our moral emotions, and like everything else about us, whether it's our eyes, our nose, our brains, our hands, our muscles, our bones, everything about us has been shaped by evolution. And what does that mean? Well, evolution is, of course, the process of natural selection, so there's random variation in populations, and through an entirely random process, various traits in that population are selected for. So, when you think about the evolution of human beings, obviously, as we compare us to our most nearest ancestor or relative related animal, chimpanzees, gorillas, okay, human beings are a lot smarter. So, at some point in our evolutionary history, intelligence was selected for. There was a group of ape like creatures, and some of them happened to be a lot smarter than others, and they did better. They had more babies, and they survived better. They reproduced. Maybe they killed off some of the other less smart apes. At some point in our evolutionary history, walking upright and running became adapted, enabled us to survive. Some uh, people have speculated that um, a part of the way we hunted is because one thing that's unique about our species is we're not that fast, but we can run for long distance. So one theory is that we ran and we just chased our prey for hours until they collapsed. So we can sweat and we don't. So animals like horses and gazelle, for example, they have fur. They can't sweat. We don't have fur. They hold in a lot of heat, so we could chase them until they collapse of exhaustion. That's one idea. So the point is, whatever traits we have are walking upright, running, not having fur on our bodies, being able to sweat from all our whole body, things like that. These were adaptive in some way or another. If they weren't adaptive, if they didn't help our ancestors survive and reproduce, we wouldn't be here. Now, in addition to intelligence and physical characteristics, one of the biggest things that separates us from other animals is not only our intelligence, but our emotional capacities. So, now all animals have emotional capacities to care for others. Um, Even animals like rats care about the suffering of other rats, and they will try and help them when they can. And um, so that's just going all the way down to rats. What to speak of higher level mammals? Any animal that's social in any way has some basic sort of moral abilities. They show affection. They care for their young, mothering instincts to take care of and protect young babies. Um, so these basic sort of moral features of our consciousness, of our sort of thinking, of our emotional life are there in animals. And if you watch the Franz de Waal video, he identifies two of them that are particularly relevant to human morality um, as the foundations of human morality. One is empathy, and the other is reciprocity. So empathy is the capacity to feel the suffering of others. Reciprocity is the capacity to understand that when we're nice to other people, they'll be nice to us. So that you do something for me, I do something for you, which essentially becomes the foundation of various laws of justice and sort of social rules about what's fair in society. So our moral emotions about justice, our moral emotions about not harming others, these very much come from our evolutionary history as being related to primates. Primates are related to other mammals, mammals raising young, living in social groups, all those things are connected. Um, and it's useful to sort of just have a general sense of the kind of beings we are when we're thinking about moral issues, especially when we think about issues in applied ethics. And sometimes it can help to see that while understanding our emotions can't definitively tell us what's right and wrong, it can give us some insights into our moral behavior. So if you understand basic sort of moral psychology about human beings, what you'll understand essentially is that um, we can be very violent, we can be very cruel, but we can also be very compassionate, very kind. Now, the sort of dual nature, the double morality for human beings is essentially a double-edged sword, because the way that those two features tend to work out is we tend to be very kind to people that we feel close to, most notably our family members, of course, but not just family. Um, it can also be people of our same race or same religion or same state or country, same culture. And we tend to not show moral concern with people that are different from us. And, well, that's, and that tendency runs at odds with sort of our basic minimum conception of morality, which is to give equal consideration to the interests of others, right? Remember, that's Rachel's sort of definition of the minimum conception of morality, part of the definition. So that becomes a real problem when we're thinking about our moral behavior and how we should think about various issues. Um, so that's something just to be aware of. Obviously, our moral emotions are not going to be entirely useful in determining what's right and wrong. We need to provide reasons. We can't just go by our emotions. But it's useful in thinking about our emotions and understanding how they influence our behavior, because we'll understand a wide range of phenomena in the world if we understand our sort of basic evolutionary framework, that moral emotions were there to help us survive, and they were there to help us survive in a small group of people, right? So we evolved living in a small tribe of people, and that's why our sort of moral emotions, the ones we count as moral, helping, cooperating, caring for, being kind, empathy, we tend to apply them only to our tribe, to a limited set, and we're actually really good at hating people outside our tribe, because we had a long evolutionary history of tribal conflict, right? So 20,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, whatever, um, you don't want to be empathizing with the tribe you're about to go to war with, right? You want to hate them, you want to kill them, you want to destroy them. If you're too kind to them, that's not going to be a good thing. So it actually helped our survival to be very mean and cruel to people outside our tribe, and be very loving, compassionate, fair, just to people within our tribe. So that's our basic evolutionary history. It has to do with tribal living, and it contains these two aspects of kindness, compassion, fairness, justice, as well as hatred, racism, um, lack of empathy, lack of compassion for people outside our tribe. All right, we'll come back to this topic of moral psychology, as it can usefully illuminate some topics, I think, as we, especially as we get into some of the political views of liberals and conservatives. So we'll look at a theory of the psychological differences between liberals and conservatives, and hopefully that will help us understand where we're coming from on different sides of issues, and hopefully help us work through some of them in a more productive way, rather than thinking other people are bad or stupid for what they believe. All right, thanks.